Two neighbors, same street, both paid off their homes the same year. No mortgage, completely free and clear. 10 years later, one of them is calm, secure, comfortable. The other one nearly lost the house. And here's the part that should stop you cold. No bank foreclosed. There was no loan left to default on. So how do you lose a home you already own outright? Stay with me, because the answer is the entire reason I'm making this video. Here's what most people believe, and honestly, I understand why they believe it. The day you make that last mortgage payment, it's over. You won. The house is yours, nothing can touch it, and you never have to think about it again. I wish that were true. But a paid-off home isn't a finish line. It's one of the most powerful and one of the most misunderstood assets you'll ever own. So today, I'm going to give you the whole picture. I'll show you the hidden monthly value a paid-off home quietly gives you. Income the IRS never touches. I'll show you how it can protect your entire retirement from the one thing that quietly wrecks good financial plans. And then I'll walk you through the real risks. The property tax trap nobody plans for, the widow's penalty hiding in the tax code, and the single most common mistake people make when they rush to pay the house off. Miss that last one, and you could hand the government tens of thousands of dollars for the privilege of being debt-free. Quick note before we start. This is educational, not personalized financial, tax, or legal advice. Always talk to a qualified professional about your own numbers. All right, let's get into it. To make this real, I'm going to walk the whole thing through one couple. We'll call them Robert and Linda, both 67, retired, home paid off, and worth $500,000. Let's start with the part almost everyone sort of understands, but almost nobody actually measures: the money. Paying off a home means eliminating what, for most households, is the single biggest line item in the entire budget. A typical mortgage payment heading into retirement runs somewhere around $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Call it $30,000 or so a year, gone. But here's the part that actually matters. During your working years, that payment came straight out of a paycheck. You barely noticed it. In retirement, there is no paycheck. Every dollar has to come from somewhere, usually a 401k or IRA, and if it comes from a traditional account, it's taxed on the way out. So follow this. If Robert and Linda still had a $2,500 monthly mortgage in retirement, they wouldn't just need to withdraw $2,500 to cover it. They might need to withdraw closer to $3,200 because after taxes take their cut, $2,500 is what's actually left. That mortgage wouldn't just cost them $30,000 a year. It would quietly cost them closer to $38,000 to $40,000 a year in withdrawals, every single year they carried it. Eliminate the mortgage, and you don't just save the payment. You save the tax on the payment, and that money stays invested, growing, instead of being pulled out to cover a bill. And here's a concept almost nobody puts a number on, even though it's genuinely valuable. Economists call it imputed rent. I'd just call it an invisible paycheck. Here's the plain version. If Robert and Linda didn't own their home outright, they'd be paying rent somewhere. Call it $2,000 to $2,500 a month for something comparable in their area. Because they own the home free and clear, that bill simply never arrives. It never shows up on a bank statement. It doesn't get counted by financial planning software. But it's just as real as any pension check landing in their account. And that matters more than it sounds like, because of a number that might surprise you. Only around 15% of private sector workers today have a traditional pension. That means the vast majority of people watching this are heading into retirement with exactly two income sources: Social Security and whatever savings they've managed to build. Two buckets and a lot of hope. Now watch what that invisible paycheck does to the picture. Say Robert and Linda's combined Social Security comes to about $44,000 a year, and their actual lifestyle costs $66,000. That's a $22,000 annual gap that has to come from savings. Using a standard 4% withdrawal guideline, covering that gap would require a portfolio of roughly $550,000. But their home is paid off. A comparable rental nearby would run about $2,200 a month. Call it $26,000 a year. That invisible paycheck doesn't just shrink their $22,000 gap. It erases it completely. Their real shortfall isn't $22,000. It's less than zero before they've touched a single dollar of savings. That paid-off home is quietly doing the job of a pension nobody handed them. If this is already changing how you look at your own house, that's exactly the point of this video. And if you find this useful, a like or a subscribe genuinely helps this reach someone else lying awake, wondering if they've got enough. All right, let's keep going, because there's a second, even bigger benefit. That same paid-off home protects against something that quietly destroys otherwise solid retirement plans. Let me tell you about a version of Robert's story that could have gone very differently. Say Robert retired at the end of 2007 with $600,000 invested and still carrying a $1,400 monthly mortgage. On paper, completely fine. Then 2008 happened. That $600,000 dropped to roughly $378,000 almost overnight. But the mortgage payment didn't care. It showed up anyway, every month. So Robert would have had to do the only thing available to him: sell shares into a crashing market just to make the payment, locking in the loss at the worst possible moment. And when the market eventually recovered a few years later, that money wasn't there for the recovery because the shares were already gone. That's what's called sequence of returns risk. A bad market early in retirement, combined with money you're forced to withdraw regardless. It's one of the most dangerous forces in retirement finance, and it's a quiet portfolio killer. Here's what an actually paid-off home does about it. It can't stop a market crash. Nothing can. But it eliminates the forced withdrawal. When your biggest fixed bill is simply gone, a down market becomes something you can wait out instead of something that forces your hand. Here's a question worth actually sitting with. If the market dropped 30% next year, and eventually it will, would you know whether you'd be forced to sell or whether you could just wait it out? Most people have never actually run that number. That's not a knock on you. Nobody ever handed you the worksheet. But by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to think about it. There's a third benefit too, and it ripples further than people expect: your tax bill. Needing less income in retirement doesn't just mean smaller withdrawals. It can genuinely move you into a lower tax bracket entirely. Say a household needs $90,000 a year to live comfortably. If they're still carrying a $30,000 mortgage, they might need to generate closer to $120,000 in gross income just to cover everything after taxes. Eliminate the mortgage, and that same household might only need to generate $90,000 or less. And lower income doesn't just lower your income tax bill. It can mean less of your Social Security gets taxed. It can help keep you under the income thresholds that trigger higher Medicare premiums. A surcharge called IRMA, which in 2026 kicks in around $218,000 for a married couple, or $109,000 for a single filer. And a lower income window in early retirement is exactly when strategies like Roth conversions become most valuable, since you're converting at a lower tax rate than you might face later. None of this shows up on a simple balance sheet, but run it across 20 or 25 years, and the difference can genuinely be tens of thousands of dollars. So, here's the honest question. Is your own home actually covering your gap? Or is there still a shortfall you'd need to fill from savings? That comes down to two numbers: your guaranteed income and your real essential expenses. Most people genuinely can't state both of those off the top of their head, and that's completely normal. It's worth actually sitting down and working them out. Now, for the part, almost nobody talks about the ways a paid-off home can still cost you, trap you, or even be taken from you. Let's go back to the question from the very start. How do you lose a home with no bank involved at all? Here's the answer: property taxes. Even paid off, you still owe the county property tax every single year. If it goes unpaid, the county can place a lien on the home and eventually sell it to collect what's owed. This happens to older homeowners more often than people realize. People who did everything right, paid off the house, and got caught by a bill they hadn't planned for. Property taxes don't retire when you do, and they tend to climb over time, right as your income often stays fixed. Here's the fix, and it's a real one. Most states have programs specifically built to protect older homeowners from exactly this. Senior homestead exemptions that reduce your taxable value, property tax freezes that lock your bill in place, and in some states, deferral programs that let qualifying seniors postpone taxes entirely until the home is eventually sold. Almost nobody signs up for these, not because they don't qualify, but because nobody tells them these programs exist. This week is worth spending 10 minutes searching senior property tax exemption for your state. The second landmine is quieter, and it's aimed specifically at married couples, so if that's you, don't skip this part. When you sell a home you've lived in, the IRS lets you keep a large portion of the profit completely tax-free, up to $500,000 for a married couple or $250,000 for a single person. Here's where it turns. When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse generally has a 2-year window from the date of death to sell the home and still claim that full $500,000 exclusion. Miss that window, and it drops to $250,000. For a home owned for decades in an area where prices have climbed a lot, that difference can mean an unexpected tax bill of tens of thousands of dollars, landing on a grieving spouse who's already lost their partner and one of their 2 Social Security checks. The fix here isn't complicated, but it has to happen in advance. If you're married, this is worth discussing together now, while you both can think clearly about it. Understanding that if one of you passes, there's a window that genuinely matters if selling the home is even a possibility. And the third landmine is one I see careful, well-meaning people walk straight into: the wrong way to pay off the house in the first place. Picture someone a few years from retirement who hates the idea of carrying a mortgage into their golden years, a completely reasonable goal. So they look at their biggest pile of money, usually a traditional $401k, and think, I'll just pull out $200,000 and knock this out in one shot. That can be a genuine financial mistake, because every dollar pulled from a traditional retirement account counts as taxable income that year. A $200,000 withdrawal in 1 year could push someone into the highest tax bracket of their life, handing over tens of thousands in extra tax, making more of their Social Security taxable, and triggering those higher Medicare premiums all at once. The smarter path is gradual, paying down the mortgage over several years from the right accounts, staying inside a lower tax bracket the whole time, rather than turning a debt-free milestone into an accidental tax disaster. There's one more consideration worth mentioning, gentler than the others, but just as real: whether the home itself will still work for you decades from now. The house that's perfect at 65, stairs, a big yard, a large layout, can become genuinely difficult at 85. Planning ahead, sometimes called aging in place, might mean small changes now, like a bedroom on the main floor or better lighting. Or it might eventually mean recognizing it's time to move on your own terms, rather than being forced to later. Which brings us to the flip side of everything we've covered. For a lot of retirees, the home makes up roughly 2/3 of their entire net worth. A huge amount of wealth, locked inside 4 walls you can't directly spend. That's the house-rich, cash-poor problem we talked about earlier. So how do you unlock that value without losing the home? There are real options. Downsizing, selling the larger home, buying something smaller, and keeping the difference in cash, is the most straightforward, though it comes with real costs too: moving expenses, commissions, and the emotional weight of leaving a home full of memories. For homeowners 62 or older, a reverse mortgage line of credit is another real option. I know that phrase makes some people flinch, and there's a real reason for caution. These products have been sold badly to the wrong people in the past. But used carefully, set up early, and left untouched until it's actually needed, it can function as a genuine safety valve for an emergency or long-term need without forcing a sale. It isn't free money, and it isn't right for everyone. But knowing it exists is what keeps you in control of the decision instead of finding out about it at the worst possible moment. And finally, there's a genuine gift hiding in the tax code for whoever eventually inherits the home: the step-up in basis. When a home passes to your children after you're gone, its tax value steps up to whatever it's worth on that day. So if Robert and Linda bought their home decades ago for $150,000 and it's worth $500,000 by the time it passes to their kids, that entire $350,000 of growth can essentially vanish for tax purposes. Their children could sell it and owe little to nothing in capital gains. But here's the trap. Well-meaning parents sometimes try to hand the house over to their kids while they're still alive, thinking they're simplifying things. Doing that can accidentally pass along the old, low purchase price too, wiping out that step up and leaving the kids with a large, avoidable tax bill down the road. Before signing a home over or adding a child to the deed, it's worth a conversation with an estate attorney first. What feels generous can quietly become expensive. So let's bring the whole thread together. A paid-off home isn't a trophy to hang up and forget. It's infrastructure. It pays an invisible, tax-free paycheck every month. It shields a portfolio from being sold at the worst possible moment. It can lower your tax bill and open doors most people never realize are there. But it isn't automatic, and it isn't untouchable. It has to be protected from the property tax trap, planned around for the widow's penalty, paid off the smart way instead of the expensive way, and understood well enough to unlock when it's actually needed. One clear thing to do this week, no matter where you're starting: find your floor. Add up your guaranteed income, add up your real essential expenses, find the gap. Then add your invisible paycheck on top, and you'll likely see your whole retirement picture more clearly than you have before. Did this change how you think about your own home? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every one, and it genuinely shapes what I dig into next. And if this helped, subscribe. I put out honest, no-fluff breakdowns like this for people in their 40s and 50s who want to actually understand what they have, not just assume it's enough. Just a reminder, this was educational content, not personalized financial, tax, or legal advice. I'll see you in the next one.